Okay, welcome. Oh, that's new. All right, so welcome everybody. We're going to start. We're going to go over the Atletico defense from the very beginning. So this is in your in the link tree. You have access to this, but you can just watch it for now. But you guys all actually have access to this if you go to any of the calendar events and take, for instance, this one, and you click. It's not on this one. Hold on. Yeah, practice events. You'll see the link tree. And so any practice event, you'll see the link tree, and you'll see attendance tracker, the Atletico defense slideshow, which is what we're looking at now. It has the entire thing, okay? It has our game model that I'm preparing for us, ways to pay, tactical session playlist, okay? So that's something that you can always get access to, okay? All right, so back to this. So the Atletico defense, let's go back. I'm going to read this out loud to you, all right? Their number one of their four basic priorities are forcing the ball wide to limit available options. They want to block inside passes and win possession, the counterattack. They do this by controlling the opposing center backs, by preventing them from receiving in free space and moving forward with the ball to play through passes. Blocking defenders through passes from central and wide areas towards opponents positioned within the crucial central area. We're going to get into this. Atletico likes to protect the middle of their defense. Keeping the space between the forwards and midfields limited. So it's going to be 12 yards between the forward line, our midfield line, or our defensive line. That's 24 yards total. We keep that constricted. That's going to allow us to do what they refer to as double marking. So after a player receives, we can double mark. Preventing the opposing midfielders from receiving in between the forward and midfield lines. So preventing, if they do receive in the crucial central area, we're going to try to prevent them from turning, and then we're going to also double mark them. Forcing the ball wide to limit available options and block inside passes to win possession. So that we control wide areas to prevent passes toward the inside. We don't necessarily, when the fullbacks have it, so block passes towards the inside when the fullbacks receive. So we're not necessarily pressing the fullbacks and we're not stopping the fullbacks from turning. We're stopping the fullbacks from playing inside. And we'll get into all this with visual stuff. I'm just going to go through briefly so you have a general overview of what Atletico tries to do. We win possession by applying double marking when wide midfielders, their wingers, receive with limited space, meaning they're going to be near the sideline with a fullback pressed against them. And then we will double mark them with our winger or our outside mid. You're going to see that in action as we go through the whole thing. Intercepting long passes directed to the wide midfielders or their wingers during switches of play by wide position fullback. So the pass down the line from their fullback to their winger is an opportunity for our fullback or our outside mid to step in and intercept that pass. We'll get into that as well. Dealing with opponents that receive in the crucial central area. So if they do happen to penetrate our middle or our belly or inside of our castle, because we keep the space between our defenders and midfielders limited 12 yards, then we can double mark the opponents who receive and prevent them from turning towards the inside. We do this with good cooperation between the defenders and midfielders. So if their 9 or their 10 receives in front of our center backs, our center back would try to prevent them from turning, while our center defensive midfielders would slam into them from the opposite direction and compress them and double mark them, so that our center backs don't have to be as aggressive. They can just hold until the midfielders come to double mark. We neutralize the long passes played towards the forwards. So we tightly mark the forwards as they come into our zone, into any given zone of our center backs. You'll find that a lot of these concepts are similar to leads. When there is time that we mark players man to man. In soccer, in any system, there's going to come a time when you actually mark somebody man to man, even in zonal systems. There's no pure zonal system, just like Leeds was not a pure man marking system. We played zone with the free man. Our 9 could be considered a zonal player. Anyway, so this just tells you that we're gonna analyze the tactics of Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid, and we're gonna start with the front block, and then we're gonna go to the mid blocks. So the front block is the 9 and 10 strikers, and then the mid block is all 4 midfielders, the 2 central midfielders, 2 outside mids who are kind of like, you could say they're wingers or whatever, but they're outside mids. And then we're going to go to the back line, and then we're going to talk about how they all interact together. Okay. All right. So we have, this is the first time we're going to see a picture now of what this defense looks like. So as you can see, the center back has the ball of the opposing center back, and you'll see that we press up on him with our 9, and we drop back our 10. In this case, don't be confused. This is Antoine Griezmann. He played the 10 for them. His number is 7. So it gets a little confusing with the numbers in these pictures because they're not using like the numbers that we normally use in soccer for the Madrid players. They're using their real numbers. So, but this is the 10. We've all done this in practice. Those that come to practice, we do this like switching off. One guy presses up, the other one drops back. Right? We have all worked on this. Okay. What I want you to notice is take a look at where he's at. He's slightly over halfway across from. He's not directly in the middle, Griezmann, and this is important as you'll see in the next slide. So if he was directly in the middle, you'll see that if the ball was played across, you'll see that Griezmann would have trouble getting there in time and stopping him from dribbling forward. So that's a problem, okay? This is why the correct positioning is for him to be, is to be slightly off of center. So even if the 6 was right here, the opposing 6, the opposing center defensive mid, that's fine. He can be on the other side of him because there's not much of a passing lane to get in there. And if he did receive, he could be pressed immediately. Okay. So I hope this makes sense that you drop in, but you don't go too close to the 9. We call this the functional 9, and we call this the functional 10. That's how I refer to it. So he's functioning as the 9, he's functioning as the 10. You'll see that they switch off duties, and we'll show what this looks like here. So on the tactical board, let's show what it looks like. So someone take over the 9 and show me what it would look like. The functional 9 would press, and the 10 would do what? Can anybody control that? And these, thank you. And what does the 9 do? The 9 right now is too straight. Well, you got to press though. It's still a little too, yeah, that's good. That's good. And the 10 is probably way too far back. He's basically at midfield there. You don't want to be that far back. You want to, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Move closer. So this is the midway point. That's good enough. For our yeah. So this would be like the midway point, like right in between. So he kind of wants to be here so that if the ball is played across, this is the behavior we're talking about. Now what happens? The 10 comes up and press. Remember, there's midfielders here, so we have to respect that. So 10 is going to do what? Go ahead. Who's got the 10? Okay. And the 9 is going to do what? The 9 is now the functional 10, we refer to it as. The 9, who's got it? Thank you. And remember, if here's the midpoint, notice this is perfect. Whoever moved the 9, great job. Notice if this is the midpoint, notice how he's just off of center. So that if the ball is played back, if he was here, which is the midpoint, the ball could be played a little forward and then he's dribbling forward and we're chasing him down. As opposed to if he's in the correct positioning, just a little bit offset, right? Here's the middle and he's a little offset. If the ball's played across and this guy tries to dribble forward, by that point, we've already closed him down. So I hope you all see the purpose of that, okay? So let's move on to the next slide. The mirroring of the central midfielders, the 6 and the 8. We refer to, so this is, who's this? The functional give me the functional what? Someone unmute themselves, please. Functional what?
6.
Those that notice defense already, so I'm not the only one talking. Hello? Come on,
6,
guys.
8. Is it 6?
What?
Is it functional 6?
No, this is the functional 9 because he's pressing the center back. What's this? The functional what?
Functional 10.
Who? The 10. Yep.
Oh, okay.
This is a tough one, but you should know it. This is the functional what?
The 8.
Correct. We always say that the ball side is the functional 8 because he has to step up. And you're going to see why. Think about it. What passes are we giving up? A cross, right? We're giving that up, right? We're giving up the straight pass. We're taking away the diagonal. So if this guy were to stay way back here, that would be a problem because you know that their 8 is going to do what? He's going to check into the ball. Good 8 is going to do what? Check into the ball. Well, if you're not stepping up on that 8, he's going to receive and turn. So that's why on the ball side, we mirror. The functional 9 goes up, functional 8 goes up with him, the functional 10 drops, and we know now this is the functional what? What is this guy? The functional what?
6.
Yeah, he's functioning as a 6. So he'll be in the area where the 10 hangs out, which is the typical job of a 6 to cover the 10. Okay? Doesn't matter if you started the game as the 8 or the 6. In Atletico, relatively equal. The 9 and 10 are kind of like interchangeable, and the 6 and 8 are interchangeable. Okay, so let's show that on the big board here. So if we took their 6, and let's take their 8. Let's even throw their 10 in. This is their entire midfield, right? This is all their middle players, except their 9, okay, which is handled by our center backs. So let's show, here's our 8, and here is our 6. Okay. So ball starts at the goalie. We are in a box, remember? Right? Everybody remember that? Ball's at the goalie, what do? In Atletico, we go into a box. Okay, ball gets played, show me. What happens? You can put your name on these players if you want, so we know who's who. Okay, I like that. Let me get a second, put your name on these guys. Okay, so you like how the 8 stepped up, right? And the 6 should be dropping back just in case this happens, right? And here's the interesting thing. If this were to happen, okay, what is it? Exactly. And this is something we saw was a problem in Leeds. Our 8, I've talked about this in the UGH game. Our 8 was not stepping up on their 8. And there's no magic bullet here, guys. If we play a zonal system like Atletico, if the 8 doesn't step up on their 8 in a man-to-man fashion, we're still going to get burned, right? If Alex were to just stay back here with the 6, this would happen. And then he could turn and do what? He could play in for the 10 to run onto, right? Okay, so no matter what system you use, you have to understand what it is to you have to understand what the roles are, what your job is. Okay. So did I mess everything up? No, we're good. So this is the mirroring effect we're talking about. The 9 is up, therefore the 8 is up. The 10 is back, therefore the 6 is back. You see the mirroring? Okay. And it's not going to look perfect like this all the time. Okay, this is a textbook we're looking at, right? Sometimes it's going to look like this. It's going to look a little messy, just like Leeds looked a little messy, right? Because this is a man-to-man defensive function. So The fact that we worked on leads for so long, don't forget leads, like, and Bielsa's system. Like, Diego Simeone is Argentinian, just like Bielsa, and he played under Bielsa. Their systems have a lot of similarities. Okay. So now let's point out one big difference. Bielsa always does what? Takes away what? This, right? In Atletico, they don't always take that away. They take away what? The diagonal ball into the 6. They're basically double marking the 6, if you think about it, right? Can we say that? Is that a fair statement? They're basically the functional 9 is casting a cover shadow on the 6, correct? And the 10 is
Yep.
there to mark them. Does everybody see that? Everybody see that?
Yes. Yes.
This is important to understand because, in Atletico, like the statements I read at the beginning, one of their jobs is they really like to protect the middle of their defense because that's the most dangerous area. Whereas Leeds wasn't as concerned about that. They tried to push the ball to one side, right? They tried to cut this off. They would then man mark, right? And close down. Okay? But it looks very similar, doesn't it? Except the fact that Leeds will leave what open? Say it. Because we will run Leeds. We're going to press with Leeds in the high zone, you'll see. So we're leaving what open, though? You see it? We're leaving that open. Whereas in Atletico, we leave this open. Leeds, we cut this off and we leave this open, but we're supposed to just be marking the 6. Okay, does that make sense? So but for the 8, nothing really changes, does it? In that scenario, right? The functional 8, everything's the same. You got to step on the guy. Okay, good enough for that. Everybody understand that? Let me just show this. Let's switch it. Just show me real quick. Go ahead. It got switched to the center back. What do we do? Good. The functional 9 now becomes a functional 10. The functional 10 takes a cover shadow. You remember that term from Bielsa? Cover shadow on the 6. On their 6. Our 6 steps up because I'll show you what might happen here. Maybe the 10 does what? Right? And maybe their 8 does this. They rotate, right? Like very good teams do, right? A lot of guys were worried about how the UGH was rotating. Well, it's not a problem. UGH's rotations were very simple. They're not a problem to solve if you know how to play defense. So this would not have been a problem, right? This guy could become their functional 10. This guy becomes their functional 8, stepping up. No worries. Our 6 becomes our functional 8 and steps on him in Atletico. But still seemingly, this is very Leeds, very Bielsa-like because it's man-to-man here. This is casting a cover shadow, okay? We're giving up what pass? We're giving this pass up. It's very important to understand that we're giving this pass up. Okay? All right. So, that good? I think that's good. Everybody, any questions on that, or are we pretty good there? Okay. So, next one. Okay, so we went over this mirroring effect, okay? Now, what happens if this looks like Bielsa, doesn't it? This is actually a mistake in Atletico. They don't want to do this right. There is a time in Atletico where we do what we did in Leeds, and you'll see that. But right now, they don't mean to do that. He kind of got caught out of position. So what has to happen is the functional 10, okay, which in this case, he's actually now, since it's ball side, he's kind of like the functional 9. He can't press. So he's actually the functional 9. Okay. He cannot press. The 10's out of position because this guy's our functional 9. This is our functional 8, functional 6, functional 10. Functional 10's out of position. Okay. So he has to hold. All right. It tells you right here, stay close to midfielders and block past the white number 6, which is right here. He has to be very careful not to get too close because there's nobody marking the 6 right now. Okay. All right. So he's going to hold and wait. The reason is, let me go to the next slide. Hopefully see the reason. If the ball is played in, he's going to be close enough to double mark. Okay. He'll be close enough to double mark to take away the pass, the bounce pass to the 6. Maybe we can show that. Let's look at it first. So notice if the ball is played to the 8, we step on the 8, stop him from turning. The functional 9 drops in and cuts the lane, because this could easily have been a bounce pass over where? Look, to the 6. See it? And then the 6 can play a through ball. That's what we're trying to avoid in Atletico. We're trying to avoid anybody in the middle getting the ball turned where they can play into the forwards on a run. If you can stop that, you're going to really reduce the chances of the other team scoring or even getting a scoring chance. Does that make a little sense? And notice he doesn't double mark from this way. He double marks to cut off the lane. Okay. So there's nowhere for the 8 to go except back. Okay. So you'll see here's the correct. He now waits until Griezmann, he delays, stays there, right? So in case the ball was played, he would be able to double mark him. But now everybody's back, so we can go normal. So the 9 presses, the 10 drops back, the functional 8 steps up, okay, and I'm sorry, this is showing you, never mind, I'm sorry. This is showing you what happens when they dribble forward, okay, if they do happen to be able to dribble forward, okay? And because of the fact that what's going to happen here is, if the 9 stays back, okay, it's going to allow the center back to do what? Dribble forward, right? So first, this is them showing you, if you stayed back, how you can take away the bounce pass to the 6. And now they're showing you that if you stay back, you can also just be ready to slide over to stop the forward progress. And everybody else is doing what right now? Dropping back. You see them? You see everybody else dropping back? It's a delay tactic. We call it in soccer, we call it a delay. We're delaying. So we're giving up some real estate. No worries. We're giving up some ground, but we're keeping our shape. Okay. We're keeping that slanted shape. We're allowing the 10 to get back. You know what happens? I talk about this a lot, that if you step forward before we're ready, if you go to press before we have coverage, they're just going to play right through you because you don't have everything covered. So this is why the 9 holds. Okay. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that? Let's show it here. So what that would look like is if the 10 got caught here, all right. Let's go back to like kind of normal. 6 is there, let's say. So if the 10 got caught here, normally you would want the 9 to step. So instead they're telling you to do what? Hold there, right? So that, and what should Alex be doing? Exactly. So now if the ball is played, and the 6 should be where, guys? Gotta slide back. Okay. So if the ball is played here, Alex can prevent the turn, and we can apply this, because this is what I was getting at. If the 6 is here, back, he should be actually, because the 6 has to cover who?
Jim, should the 6 be on the 10 or the 6?
The 10, and that's why it's very important that the 9 holds. So I'm going to show you what happens. If the 9 stays too high, watch what happens. You see the bounce pass? But if the 9 does what they showed in the diagram and drops back and delays, now watch. As the ball comes in, he can cut this lane off, right? Notice he shouldn't go this way, because what will happen still? It's very subtle, but very important. Cuts this off. Okay? Make sense? This is why he drops back. When you're not in the proper shape, your numbers down, drop back and condense in soccer. Okay? Drop back so you don't get penetrate it, okay? Does that make sense? Or do you need me to go over that again? And why is the 6 here? This is following that mirroring pattern, right? If this is ball side, the 9 would normally be up. The 8 has to go up, correct, guys? The 8 has to go up because of why? The 9 has to hold in the middle and back, middle back. The 8 has to step up. Therefore, we can't just leave this 10 unmarked, right? And do this, because now this is what it would look like in a game. These would be our center backs, right? And they would already have their 9. That would mean we were what in the back, guys? Count them. What are we centrally? What's the number situation?
So we're neutral
Anybody?
there, right? No +1.
It's 2. There's no +1. It's 2v2. That's a problem. That is a problem, right? If you don't want to get scored on, that's a problem. Okay. You can survive it sometimes, but it's not, it's like playing with fire. So this is why we need the 6 back. Sorry. We need the 6 back. So now we have a numerical advantage in this area. You see it? Yes, he's open here, but that's okay. Why? We have a cover shadow on him, correct? You see it? Okay. And if the ball is played here, we just get another cover shadow on. No problem, right? So all these concepts we learned when we were studying Bielsa and Leeds, they're still applicable in Atletico's defense. And this is what you do in Atletico's defense. This is a cover shadow on the 6. See it? Okay. This, if you think about it, is a what? Between these players. This player, and this player. It's a 2v1, isn't it? And what do you do when you have a 2v1? We did this in practice. You drop. So this guy is responsible for 2 players, him and him. So you drop. So you can think of it that way if that helps you. He's responsible for both of these players. Okay. So that if the ball's played to here, he's also responsible for the 6. See it? Okay. If the ball is dribbled forward, this is what they were showing you. As it's being dribbled forward, this guy is, that's good if they dribble forward, because passing or dribbling takes longer. What takes longer?
Dribbling. Oh,
Dribbling.
sorry. Yeah, dribbling.
Yeah, dribbling. Let them dribble. Let them dribble. Okay? So he dribbles. While he's dribbling, what's faster, a man running or a man dribbling?
Man running.
Man running. Okay? Our functional 10 recovers. Okay? Once our functional 10 recovers, look, we're already in good shape. See it? We already have our mirroring, don't we? Right? You see it? Now the 9 can do what? Just like I showed in the diagram. You see it? 9, functional 9, functional 8 mirroring behind them. Try to keep that 12-yard distance. And here's why. If the ball is played here, he stops him from turning, and then the functional 9 applies double marking. This is something we talked about with Leeds, double marking through a cover shadow, double marking. Atletico does the same thing. Because just like Leeds, you can't always stop the guy from getting the ball. But what we can do is stop him from turning. What we were supposed to be doing in Leeds is stopping the guy from turning. We didn't always do that. But now we're going to stop the guy from turning, and we're going to apply double marking. In Atletico, it's easier to apply double marking because we're going to control where we're at. We're going to stay compact with Atletico. So it's going to be much easier to double mark. We're not going to be as spread out because we don't have to follow our guy to the outside as much, okay? So we're going to be easily, as long as we keep 12 yards, and that's up to you guys. We're going to practice this, but it's up to you guys to make sure you maintain this 12-yard distance, which is the size of one of my rondo boxes. 12 yards is not much, right? Does that make sense? So then he double marks, okay? And, you know, now you have the 10 back. So he can actually double. If the 10's back, does he have to do this or can he do this? He can go straight on him, right? As long as the 10's back now. When the 10 wasn't back, just to show again, right? When the 10 wasn't back, if the ball was played, he had to cut the lane this way because our functional 10 wasn't back yet. But if our functional 10 gets back, now he can take a cover shadow from here and we can really screw them, right? And not even allow the back pass. And we can really slam on them. So it's important that everybody understand everybody else's roles. Players that understand everybody else's roles are going to be the best players for us. Okay, does that make sense? It's very detailed, guys, but this is, I don't know who was at the Danubia game. You heard Brian, the Danubia coach, talking about this. As the level goes up, the game, you have to be more of advanced of a player tactically. Okay, so very good. And we're going to practice this, don't worry. And remember, this is all available for you guys to study. And I encourage you to, in your free time, to be reading this. I have it all there for you, all the diagrams. And I'm always available to answer your questions. Okay, so pretty good there. We have 22 minutes left. Let's see how many more slides we can get through without rushing. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, this is showing you them doing it the wrong way, which we kind of showed, but you can see them explaining it. If the 9 were to step up, the functional 9, while the functional 10 was out of position, you can see the bounce pass I was talking about, where they're just going to bounce it off the 8, their functional 8, over to their functional 6, and now that guy can play a through ball. That's what that diagram is showing. We did not delay. We were out of position. Instead of the 9 delaying and sitting back, they stupidly went up and pressed. They got played right through, and even though Alex here playing our functional 8 stopped their 8 from turning, Alex can't stop everything. He can't stop him from a bounce pass always. They call it a link player. Bing, bing. By the way, is this a good way to learn offense? They're showing you right here how to beat teams that don't play proper defense, aren't they? You're going to see that by studying how to play defense, you're going to become a better offensive player because you're going to realize what system the other team's playing, and you're going to know the weaknesses of it. So you're going to be able to break it down easier. The quick story I always like to tell is, it's an American football story. I'll take 30 seconds. Peyton Manning, when he went to college, his dad was like a pro player. So if you don't, he kind of planned out the two Manning brothers' careers for them. And he particularly sent Peyton to this one college as coach because he thought very highly of the coach. And what the coach did, as soon as Peyton got there, the first thing he handed him was not the offensive playbook. He handed him the defensive playbook. And he made him learn how the defense is run. He made him study defense before he studied 1 ounce of offense. And he needed to know all about defenses, and then he taught him so he understood how defenses work. You got to understand how defense works to be able to break it down. Okay, next slide. Oh, this is the mistake. So we showed this, right? Or no, this is the proper movement, right? They showed you. Now they're showing the functional 9 waiting until the functional 10 gets back. Okay, and now he's in a position that if the ball is played to the 8, Griezmann, the functional 10, is in a position to do what? Cut the pass off. The space is restricted, the linked pass. Okay, the functional 10 and the functional 6 can step on that. Okay. Does that make sense there? That's just showing it the right way. We showed that on the tactical board as well. So I'm not, and again, you guys can look at this later. So, okay. I think they're just showing again the wrong way to do it. Right, the functional 9 steps up. He's not back yet. They're just showing a different way they can beat you, which is simply by playing the 6 can drop in, okay, and just simply receive, and now he can play a through ball, right? So that would be over here on our tactical board. Let's see what they're showing in there. They're functional 6, sorry. They're functional 6. Simply, we're out of position, okay? We're out of position. So what they're showing here is if he steps up, the 6 can simply do this and receive right to here. And now this is a problem, and because he can get turned. You're going to see that our plan on offense is to receive the ball, breaking a line, turned, so we can play forward and break the next line. That's going to be a very important part of our game model on offense. Okay, you see why that's dangerous, right? You can play all kinds of through balls down, have the 10 run onto it, whatever. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, that he not only can do a link pass, but if the link pass isn't on, sometimes he can just literally play directly through, because he wouldn't be able to do this, what? If the 10 was back, right? That wouldn't have been a problem, would it? Because as the ball was being played now, we can step on him. But if he pressed when the 10 was out of position, now it's a problem. Okay? So I hope that's clear. And we're gonna practice this. Okay, so I hope everybody understands that. No questions there. Stop me if you have a question, okay? It's okay to have a question. Okay, again, they're showing you another wrong way to do it. They're just showing you another link pass, okay? This is all because we pressed without having our 10 in proper position. So these are all ways, they're showing you all ways you can screw up. Okay? We're basically double marking the center backs. And remember in Leeds, did we ever double mark the center backs pretty much? No. They're showing you all the problems that could happen when you double mark the center backs. It could cause problems. All right. This is basically covering the center back here, and this is basically covering the center back. So we're playing man-to-man defense essentially against their center backs. That means we're going to be, we either have to get rid of our free man on the back line to mark the rest of the players in the middle, or and that's a problem too. So that's why we don't double mark the center backs. Got to leave somebody open. Okay, so they're just giving you their assessment, which I've already talked about here. All right, so I'm not going to take time and read this and bore you by reading online here. You can read this, but they're just talking about good decision making. This all has to do with good decision making. Okay, so they're showing you here now where they would purposely put a player out of position. That's what they're going over here. They're going to purposely put, in this case, Diego Costa out of position, right? They are not in a box right now, right? The goalie had the ball. Were they in that nice box that I like for Atletico? No, they were not, right? So as the ball comes out, all right, but they are in what's called a counter-attacking position. This is great for counter-attacking by having and he's not sweeping here. Diego Costa is not sweeping like we do with Leeds. He's just sitting there, slightly off. Notice he's not directly in line with them. He's just slightly off where he could intercept the ball if it was trying to play it across. But if we were to steal the ball here, question, is Diego Costa, if we were to intercept the ball with our 10, our 6, or our 8, or anyone else, is Diego Costa in a great counterattacking position? Yes or no?
Yes.
He's in the best, right? Literally the best. Their center backs they're 44 yards apart, because the 18 box is 44 yards wide. They're 44 yards apart. They're 20 yards away from him. This is a great position. So yes, we have less guys to mark with, but what did we do? No, what did we do here? We're defending as if he's out of position. That's what I want you to understand here. Atletico is very sneaky. They're defending, and they know they are, and they have no intention of dropping Diego Costa back right now. Not yet. They're defending as if he's out of position. And they know how to do that simply by having Griezmann as the functional 9 drop back, so that if the ball was played in, after it's played to the center back, if it was played to the 8, he can cut the lane right here to their functional 6. As the ball is received by their functional 8 and he goes to link it, Griezmann is in a position to cut the lane and press and double mark. So he'll drop into the lane, and then press. So it's not a problem if Griezmann is an intelligent player, and he is. So he knows exactly the situation he's in. Okay? He knows that Costa's there on purpose. So we're going to play this as if we have our 10 out of position, but we know how to play a man down. Atletico knows how to play with a man down and delay. If 4 starts to dribble forward, they're going to show you. Oh, they should show you here. If he starts to dribble forward, okay, Costa will drop down so that if they try to do something funky, like do a link play, Diego Costa now is dropping in. He's dropping in, and look what they're doing. They're keeping this passing lane narrow. That is very risky, right? It doesn't mean it's impossible. That's the thing you're going to learn here. We're not making it impossible. Like, do we have to make it impossible for these guys to receive? Are we near our own goal? Or do we need to make it risky? What would you rather do? Make it impossible, which means you're going to give up something, or do you want to make it very risky? What do you think? I personally think this is a good strategy, right? But I want you to understand what their theory is here. They're making the passes risky for the other teams. They're not making them impossible. Does that make sense? They're tempting them to make the pass so they can get an interception and counterattack. If they were to make them impossible, they would be giving up something else. Like if Costa would drop totally in, he'd be giving up what? A counterattacking position, right? If he were to drop here, he has less of a he's not in as good of a position to counter. Does that make sense? So he's giving up a little bit of a window, knowing that if the ball did get through, he can mark him along with the functional 6 if they had to, right? Okay. Does that make sense? So this is something we can implement in our game, that when the player is caught out of position, we need to communicate, and we decide what we're doing by what this guy does. If this guy stays, we know we have to be careful here. All right, so we have to work this together. So if he stays, and we decide we're going to look for a counter, maybe we're down a goal and we want to get a goal back, we go into this. We sit into a counterattacking situation, right? We leave ourselves out of position a little in a counterattacking position, daring them to send that ball while they have a lead, daring them to send a dangerous ball while they have a lead, and maybe we pick it off and then we score and tie the game. So we're giving up a little bit, okay? Unlike in the earlier slides where you saw we're not giving up. We're not giving up anything, right? We're blocking that lane. Say it. We're blocking everything. All right. This will be maybe we're winning or the game's tied. Okay. We're going to play very safe and let them make a mistake. Okay. We showed that. So that's the narrowing of the lane. As he dribbles forward, Diego Costa will drop with him. He's basically, if you look, he's dropping with the ball carrier. Instead of staying way up, he's dropping with it to help cut that lane off. Okay. Now, this, for those of you who ran, leads, which is pretty much all he is, the Bielsa system, this is going to look very familiar. And you've heard me say this before, where it's really good to do in leads. When they go 3 center backs, what do we like to do? Someone tell me. What do I like to do when they go 3 center backs?
To split them, right?
Like
sweep them.
What's that?
Sweep it.
What's that? Sweep them. We sweep them. We call it a sweep. We sweep them. They call it creating a strong side. We call it a sweep. That's the lingo we use at Kensington. And you see that they're going to talk about in this long, definitely read this, but I'm not going to read this to you. But like, they're cutting off how many people now? If the center back plays the 4, which now you see center back, middle center back plays to the other center back, and if Diego Costa, the functional 9, cuts that lane off, how many players is he cutting off?
2.
2. Okay. one player is now marking 3 players. All right. So who's already seeing that there's elements of Bielsa's system in here? Can everybody see the signature of Bielsa in this? You should be able to see it, right? Like I said, the guy was coached by Bielsa for many, many years for the Argentinian national team. There's elements here. This is cutting off the lane. Okay, now we basically have a free man. We have like an extra defender. Okay, this part I don't even need to go. I mean, you guys are familiar with this from Leeds. There's a bazillion videos before this one on the tactical playlist that go over what it should look like. Now, when we do this, if we're going to do this, we're going to man mark. You understand? Like, or it's a waste. Everybody understand why that is? You don't want to just leave a guy open at that point, right? You got to mark. That's basically like a press. All right, where did I go here? I think that was the last video. That was the last one. Okay, this is by no means done. Okay, but that was all I wanted to go over. So I'm going to open it up to questions. That's just the beginning. Okay, we have a lot more to go through. I'm going to add the rest of the slides so you can study them. But this should be enough to keep you busy. Everybody agree with that? Okay. We're not going to forget leads. It will be used. It will basically be our pressing system. So Atletico's pressing system, which we'll learn later in this as we study it, it's going to look just like Leeds. So we've already learned how to press with Leeds, and the Atletico pressing system is extremely similar. So it's not going to be a problem for you guys. Okay. That's what we go over that later in this book. Okay. So there's any questions? Any questions? Everybody good? Everybody good? Okay.
I think it makes sense so far.
Yeah. All right. So we will let you go early. So basically, yeah, I'll give you the general philosophy of this, the way I think of it, since we have a little couple minutes left. We're giving up. If you noticed here, what pass, who can tell me for a little extra credit here, what pass is going to be, where's this ball going to end up? Let's go back. So who can guess where this ball is going to end up? Hold on. Where is this ball going to end up most of the time?
On the
What 4
sides.
players are going to have the ball for the other team?
Fullback?
2 center backs, right? Well, let's put it this way. They're going to pass the ball between the center backs because we're allowing it. But at a certain point, they're going to do what? They're going to pass the ball where?
That's to the wing.
They're going to pass it out to their fullback, right? The sneak preview for next week is we are not going to stop the fullback from turning. We do not stop the back 4 from turning. We allow them to turn. That is a sacrifice we make to be stronger to prevent the other players from turning. So I want you to understand that from a philosophical perspective. If everything in soccer is you take something away, that means you're probably giving something up. So we're allowing their back line to face forward with the ball. We're giving that up to be able to take away the rest of the players from turning. Okay, so I need you to understand that. What that's going to do is, if we take away this middle successfully, and we will, I assure you, we're going to take away this middle. We've done it in every team that I've coached this. This middle will be gone. It'll be very difficult for them to play for the middle. They will play to the sides. An interesting thing to give you a thought for, we may go over the offense tomorrow, depending on the weather. What's going to happen to their fullbacks? Are they going to end up being very wide or more narrow like you normally see in amateur soccer? Or are they going to be on the damn touchline? What do you think is going to happen?
Wide.
They're going to get wide. Happens every time. And these amateur teams are not used to going wide. When we played Leeds, they were able to go wherever the hell they wanted because we allowed them to basically dictate how they wanted to play. And then we just matched it. That's how we did Leeds, right? It's whatever we said, hey, whatever you like to play, go nuts, and we'll just cover you. We'll match you. Atletico says you're not allowed to play in the middle. We're going to deny the middle from you. You have to now spread out wide. Now I have a question for you. What does that do for our ability to attack? If their offense spreads out wide and we win the ball, is that good for us for counterattacking?
Yes, because they're not compact.
They're not compact. A principle of defense is to get compact. If they don't know how to, first of all, if they don't get wide, they're screwed. If they don't put those fullbacks wide, I honestly don't know where the hell they're going to play the ball. They're going to have to just bomb it forward every time in the air. And that's not going to work. So they're going to have to get wide. They're going to get wide, and especially when we play at Temple. And I know Real Central's pitch is 74 yards wide as well. I don't know how wide Bristol is. Their fullbacks are going to be 75 yards apart. Okay, we're now actually going to have more space than we did with Leeds to play, because what we did for other teams is by us spreading out, we acted like a professional team. We spread out, right? We spread out our fullbacks, we spread out our wingers, right, to try to open up the field. We never fully took advantage of that as an offense, but we were a new team. We never took advantage of that width that we were getting. These other teams generally don't take advantage of width, right? They don't use it. So we're going to be putting them in a situation that they're not familiar with. They're not going to be used to being way out wide and then having to run all that way to contract and then get out wide again and then contract and get wide again. This is going to cause problems. If you guys learn this and do it correctly, it's going to be really fun this year. Okay, I promise. All right, leave it there. That's just scratching the surface. There's a lot more work to be done. All right, so I'm going to stop recording and then I'm going to ask people about tomorrow what you want to do. So let me stop the recording.